Once you have taken your photographs of your client, you can then go ahead and cleanse the area that you're going to be working with. There are certain wipes that you can use that take makeup off. Otherwise, an alcohol wipe works very well. It keeps the area nice and clean. We need to have all residue off of the area that we're working. It's very important to keep that area clean. Once we have cleansed over the area, then we can proceed with our brow mapping. So we are going to be doing both vertical and horizontal lines with our thread. And the first line that we'll be doing is the midpoint. Now this point is incredibly important. It's where we're going to do all measurements from. So if that point is off, everything's going to be off. So take the time. You can see that you can push the skin up between the eyes to see if it's centered. And we're actually centering it between the eyes, not the nose, because the nose can be curved. Now the next point we're going to do is going to be the front of the brow. So we're just at the dip above the flare of the nose and going straight up. Now, if they have a very narrow nose, you can go to the outside of the flare, but with most people, this is going to be the best point. Now, the next point that we need to find is the arch. And sometimes you can see the natural arch, but otherwise we're going to go from the corner of the nose to the outside of the pupil. So we'll have our client open her eyes, look straight up, find our point. You can close now, and we'll lay that point down. And then our outside point is going to be where our brow is going to stop. If you need more China wax on your pencil or on your thread, please go ahead and take from your pencil. You can see now that it's right under the outside of the lashes. That's the point that we want. And we're making sure that we can see those points, that there's enough color there to know the exact points. So these are our 4 vertical points that we're going to do. Now we need to do our horizontal points. And you can feel for the beginning of the brow by feeling that orbital bone and also looking where their brow naturally starts. And that first horizontal line will be the lower part of the brow. Our next line is going to determine the thickness of the brow, or the height of the brow, you might call it. So make sure you really are looking at that carefully, not giving someone a very gigantic brow, or on the other hand, something too small. And then our third horizontal line is going to go from the highest point of the brow, and you can feel that on the arcade of the brow, or the upper part of that brow bone. We're going to feel for that, and we're going to go straight across to the other side. And especially with somebody with asymmetrical brows, this is an important part because we're going to be able to see where we need to modify that upper arch point. Now with these vertical and horizontal lines, we can now begin to design our eyebrow. We're going to mark our points on the brow, so we're marking point 1 and then point 2. The outer point is 3. Underneath we have 4, and then you can go ahead and mark 5 to give you an area to aim toward, and then 6 just almost to the tip. But it's very important to actually make note of those points. Now we're taking the same thread, we've added a little bit more of the wax, and we're going to line up point 1 and point 2. And this needs to be straight. We don't want the brow curving up. If anything, it can be slightly concave or perfectly straight. Now point 2 to point 3, and there actually is a little bit of a natural dip in that area. We don't want that to be completely straight. On the other hand, we don't want it to be concave. It can be a little bit rounded out, but we never want it to be higher than point 2. And now we can actually use our pencil to darken that a bit. Now the bottom line is best done freehand, and you can see that we are going from point 4 to point 5. Now that particular line can be straight or it can be a little bit convex, just slightly. We're now going from point 3 backward to finish our brow. Then we'll go ahead and emphasize that first line. And you can see now why it is so important that you have that fine edge on your pencil, because this is your guide. This is also what your client is going to be looking at to approve, so it needs to be exact. So now we're taking a Q-tip, one of the kind that have the little bit more noticeable point, and we're cleaning up that line. Again, it has to be as fine as possible. Take your time with brow mapping. Sometimes they will have excess hair that lies outside of the design, and we can use a little personal razor, little shaver to actually get that off. Now you can see we're going to hold the skin tight side to side and then just very gently shave that excess off. You don't want to wax, you don't want to do anything like that prior to this service, because it can very much sensitize the skin. This will not bother the skin whatsoever. And definitely remove that excess hair prior to showing your client the design, and definitely prior to doing the procedure. You can see how the skin is being gently stretched tight so that that razor is just very gently removing the excess hair at the skin line. And then just wiping away any of the excess hair. Now the next thing we'll do is have our client look at the brow, and always remind them that what they're looking at is the frame. It will not look that big. It is the frame around the picture, so the brow will lie inside of that. We're now going to go ahead and duplicate the design on the second eyebrow using a caliper and our China wax pencil. We have the wax that we apply to the back of the caliper. We're going to be using this to put lines on the skin, so make sure that it's actually on the area that will lay on the skin. And first measurement is from the center line to the first line, and we bring that over and glide up. And now you can see where you actually have that first line on the second eyebrow. Next measurement is going to be center to the arch, and you want to make sure that you have that caliper straight, that you're not moving it around. And so now we're going to bring that over, lay it flat, and bring that up. And then last measurement will be center to the end. Again, you can see how we're keeping that straight on the skin over the eyebrow, and then we're going to move that over, lay it down in the exact same spot, and pull up. So we have our 4 vertical lines, and now we can just emphasize those a little bit more with our thread, and we can mark our points. So we have our point 1, point 2, point 3 at the end. We have point 4, which is at the bottom, 5 just a little bit further up, and then we have point 6 just past the arch. And these points are going to guide us again in designing the brow. Symmetry is so important, and our clients, of course, come to us oftentimes with brows that are naturally asymmetrical. So the next step is to use our waxed thread again from point 1 to point 2. That line can be straight or it can be slightly concave, but never ever curved up. We're then going to go from 2 to 3, which can be straight or slightly convex. Just remember the highest point of the brow has to be point 2. No part of the tail can be higher than our point 2. We then take point 3, the tail, and we're designing the brow with our client laying flat and eyes closed, because once our client opens their eyes, their mimetic muscles take over, and very often we raise one brow a little bit more than the other. So we design it first laying down, and then we can bring you up to double check that.